just a quick note. I found the Red Star, the Elite Four amount that they tossed in the new challenges more of an insult than a kind gesture. Yeah. What's up, guys? So today I am joined by one of my favorite content creators, one of my buddies, frequent guest on my live stream, the man himself, Tony Scungili. What's going on, dude?
What's going on, Josh? Good to see you, man.
You as well. So I saw you were on one of Valley's videos talking about the boycott, some of the points they're making, and it looks like in the comments a lot of people wanted you to debate me. They're of the opinion that we're on like completely opposite sides of the boycott, which I don't think either of us think are true, which we'll get into, but they wanted you to debate me, so thank you for agreeing to join me here today to do that. What people I don't think are aware of is that we are good friends and have been for like several years now. So for the purposes of this video, we have to be opposing one another. So I just want to say, again, for the purposes of this video, Tony, I think you're a big dumb.
Listen here, poopy pants.
Oh.
I'm coming at you with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Well, I don't like your face that much, so I'm gonna let you have it.
All right, well, that hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry. I mean, deal with it. No, just kidding. But so, yeah, so we got a list of topics. We're gonna talk about red stars. We're gonna talk about orange gear availability, character release cadence, quality time and time investment. We're gonna talk about gold, and we're gonna talk about FoxNext Communication. We are on the same page for some of these issues. We're not on the same page for some of these issues. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. And we'll start with red stars. I'll let you go first because you're assumed to be the pro boycott, which actually, right before we do this, I do want to mention. So, we brought this up just before we started recording. People think I'm like completely anti-boycott, and in reality, I'm like 5 out of 10 in support of boycott. Like about half of what they're saying I completely agree with, and half of it I don't. And then I asked you, what would you say out of 10 you are in terms of support for the boycott?
A very solid 8 out of 10, but more of that is my personal, like, I haven't been spending as much money as I had. So, like, it just kind of lined up with my goal. Okay, a solid 8 out of 10, even if I was 10 out of 10 in support of not spending money in anything, like, I don't think I'm 10 out of 10 on anything.
You don't have the enthusiasm or the work ethic to be 10 out of 10 on it?
Yeah, I'm not that in on anything, but I'm definitely like 8 out of 10 because I believe that like the overall goal of the boycott is to make positive changes for everyone,
right,
including myself and yourself, like including Wales, like, but you know, free to play as well.
I agree with that completely, and actually the only parts of the boycott that I actually oppose are parts of the boycott that, in my opinion, people don't realize would make the game better for some players and worse for other players. But the things they've raised that, as far as I can tell, would just be better for everyone. Like, it'd be crazy to oppose.
Sure.
So
that's fair.
But yeah, anyway, so again, since we're assuming that you're fully in support of it and I'm not, we'll let you start with red stars. Just give me a brief rundown of where you stand on this.
Okay, so I did not like Red Stars after about a month into their official release. I did not like Red Stars upon their section. I'm sorry, their rework. There's a story that people tell on YouTube comment section that like RNG benefits free to play players. That would be correct if I couldn't spend towards it. So like if Red Stars were only available through gameplay, then yes, it would benefit free to play players. But because I could spend money and buy more red stars, I will have a better roster than someone who could spend slightly less money or someone who spends no money. You know, like I will have a better roster, so that's not true. I think that red stars are one of the most detestable forms of RNG styled gacha progress I've ever seen, and they have long been needed to be repaired, and I believe that stands with the Fix MSF movement.
Yep.
And you.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna get to. Is I completely agree. So just to clear up a couple things, some people think like I've always been the pro Red Stars guy. I've literally never been pro Red Stars. At no point in the history of this game was I ever more for Red Stars than against. I've always been more against them than for them. What I did make sure to go on record and say was that I'm probably the least against them of all the content creators, not because I'm like, oh, they're kind of good, but more because every other content creator was like, this is going to kill the game immediately. This is the last day MSF will have ever been fun. It's all suffering from here on out. So I was like, we need to pump the brakes on that. This sucks, but we'll deal with it. That was kind of always my point. I agree with pretty much everything they're saying about Red Stars. At the end of the day, it's RNG progression. RNG progression sucks. No one enjoys RNG progression. I don't know anyone who's ever played a game and felt like, you know what would be more fun than choosing how strong I am? Leaving it up to chance. But also trying to compete with other people. It's a lot of fun to compete with other people by rolling the dice against them. So, yeah, Red Stars are bad. They need to rework, and the fix is so obvious. Just give people more control over their progression. And the thing is, if they allowed us to, like, selectively power up people to, say, 6 Red Star, if like every month you definitely got to take 1 or 2 characters to 6 Red Star, that would be no disruption whatsoever to the competitive landscape of the game, because they're releasing more characters than that, and we have a backlog right now of there's 125 characters released. So I would never be able to get Red Stars on all the new people I wanted and all the old people I wanted, even if I could promote people to 6 or 7 every month. So yeah, Red Stars just are stupid. They've always been stupid, and yeah, I think we agree.
I think they've been stupid for far longer than they've needed to be. That's kind of my other thing. Like there was always tiny things that could have happened from giving more Red Star orbs out, and I think more of the time that they have existed in this state is indicative of where the problem is, and not so much their initial shock or the rework itself. I think it's been months. They don't feel rewarding. And it's been a while.
You just reminded me of one other thing, too. One other thing that I just want to mention really quickly is people are like, oh, Khasino's finally changed his tune on Red Stars. So here's another thing that I said in my original video, which is I've seen a lot of mobile games do this, where they come out with a system that's stupid but makes a lot of money. And they let it be stupid and make a lot of money for about a year. And then they go, all right, like people have had enough. We made good money off of it. It's time to make it less stupid. And so I said in my original video, going back to the day they came out, I was like, I fully expect this to be annoying and stupid for about a year, and after that they'll lessen up. And so literally on the day of 1 year of Red Stars, I was like, time's up. I will not tolerate this stupidity anymore. I gave you guys a year. I hope you made good money. It's time to get rid of this stupid system or make it far more favorable to the players. So it's not like it took me forever to come around to it. I, from the get-go, was like, this is standard practice in this industry, and the minute that they hit what I consider to be the standard amount for doing this, I'm over it. So, but yeah, we both oppose Red Stars, and I don't think there was a single comment in the boycott letter about Red Stars that I didn't fully agree with.
Cool.
So, moving on, though.
Great start to the debate.
Yes, it is a great start to the debate. That said, though, I think we'll get a little bit of fireworks here, possibly, if you can come out in support of it, because they did make a lot of comments on Orange Gear, and I have completely the opposite stance on Orange Gear availability. I disagree with everything they've said about Orange Gear availability in the letter, pretty much. So, do you want me to go first on this one?
Oh, by all means, yeah, we'll alternate. Go ahead.
Okay. So, when it comes to the Orange Gear availability, people are correct in saying, like, it's random how we get it. It's super rare. It takes months and months and months to accumulate it. It takes a very long time to get characters to Gear Tier 14. Like, all that is correct. However, 2 things I think they're missing. Firstly, the large majority of players in this game, that doesn't even affect them. So the fact that the super top-end players have stalled out a bit in terms of how crazy strong they can get is good news for majority of the player base. Because there's, like, most players I know have, like, 1 or 2 Tier 13 characters. Like, it took them a long time just to get into Enter the Darkness. So when they're like, oh, people are struggling to get their 3rd Gear Tier 14 character, cool, maybe I'm catching up a little bit. And the stat jump from Gear Tier 13 to Gear Tier 14 is, in my opinion, irresponsibly designed. Like, it's a huge, every Gear Tier prior to, from 13 to 14, is like 5 to 6% better. 13 to 14 is like over 20%. It's absurd. So if the super top end players who don't need to spend any gear, resources, or currency or anything on purple gear could just hard farm orange gear, they would be getting leaps and bounds ahead, which I don't think would be good for everyone. That's the first thing. The second thing, and the bigger point, is orange gear is not really needed for anything, right? I have some gear tier 13 characters, but I have no gear tier 14 characters. I have completed absolutely all the content in the game except for the challenges that came out like yesterday, which even all those I've done, I've been fine. And my alliance 60% is Ultima 7. So the only thing I can conceive of that I would be able to do with gear tier 14 is 100% Ultima 7, and that would literally be the last thing I have to do. Now, some people are gonna point to Dark Dimension 3, but in my opinion,
it's not here.
No, first off, it's not here. But secondly, the whole point of orange gear is to act as a gate. So things like Dark Dimension 2, Dark Dimension 3, when they come out, they're what's called in the industry a late game chase. And the whole point of it is for it to take a long time for us to chase after it. It is literally the definition of a long-term goal. So people are upset that it will take them many months to accomplish something that the whole point of it is to take many months. That's literally the only reason it's there. I would be so disappointed if I could do Dark Dimension 3 the day it came out, and if a week or two after it came out, I was done with it, it would just be like 1 month later, like, so you guys haven't had any new content lately. You gave us Dark Dimension 3, that took like, I don't know, 2 weeks, great. Well, now we're bored, we're waiting. Like, it's so irrational. The whole point of orange gear is to slow people, to make it take a while, and it makes it more rewarding. If it takes me 6 months to get into Dark Dimension 3, it now means something to have completed Dark Dimension 3 because it was 6 months in the making. So, oh, and my final point is, with Dark Dimension 2, when it first opened up, for like the first couple of months, no one could get in. So there's no reason to assume Dark Dimension 3 should be different. Then when like the first few people got in, there was like a month where like 4 people got in. And what they always do is they then slowly make it more available. And now, like we talked about before this video, like players who've been playing like 200 and something days have done Fear the Darkness. Like they do make it more available, just not right away. So eventually Orange Gear will be more available, but I wouldn't be upset if they gave us more of it, which they just gave us a little bit more with the shops and stuff, but it's still the mini uniques that are the gate. But yeah, I think it would literally defeat the purpose. If they made it 5 times as available tomorrow, I think it would defeat the whole purpose of why it exists.
Okay, cool. So I have a couple of counterpoints. The points you've made are good, but a couple of counterpoints. The first is the concept of stall out, where you're saying that like obviously this feels very whale first movement. Like we can't make more gear tier characters. We're at the end game, and it's designed specifically to be like a gating system. My issue with stall out in general is that if it's affecting some people, there has to be a point in time when it stops because other people will reach that point. Now, players who've been playing the game for 6 to 8 months, you are a ways away from that. Players who, I believe like right now we're at the point where a 4 million TCP roster is stuck behind very similar gates as a 5, 6, 7 million TCP roster, and it's waiting for progress. So while I think that stall out is its own independent issue of pacing of the game, they're choosing orange gear as the mechanism by which they want to create that stall out, and I think that there's a slightly different way where you can approach that, because if you don't, you end up with more people catching up to the end, and then we have the worst case scenario in a game, which is everyone sitting at the top at the end waiting for new content, which is how people have been talking about. So it's kind of what they do. They kind of are waiting till the last minute to release additional content. The second point was the necessity of orange gear, and I agree with you at like 60%. I don't think the orange unique pieces, the new ones, the mini uniques we've been calling them, the the pieces that were free to get in purple and now impossible to get. I think those are the gate that they specifically added. I think that the regular uniques are no longer the gate because now players need to be able to enter, like you said, Dark Dimension 2. And you had mentioned people are doing it at 270 days. But there is a cost involved in that, both gold and in luck, because the only way you can get those by targeting them is through gold or war, and then everything else is luck. So I think that a compromise in the middle of that would be make the regular uniques just more accessible in some way. This way, it doesn't just affect the whales who have been farming these and have back stocks of these, and again, it doesn't affect me. It affects the players who are like, maybe I do want to take in Symbiote Spider-Man, but he's going to take spores, you know? Like it's to me, it's there's a rise, a tide rise that needs to happen. Like when you add a gate, you remove a previous gate, and we'll get into. You're gonna hear me say that phrase again for something else later, but like there doesn't need to be 17 gates. One or two gates is more than enough.
I agree.
That's my.
I agree, but so I don't consider if we're saying that 200 days played, people are entering Fear the Darkness. I don't see the original uniques as a gate. I think only the mini uniques are a gate. I think the other unique pieces. So you were saying the only way to target them is with gold. No, the War Store. And again, it's all about choosing what you get. But the War Store, you can not only can you target uniques, you can target big stacks of them. And if you're always buying those orange war orbs, you're going to get a lot of them. So I agree with what you're asking for conceptually, but I do think that's where we're at. I think the orange mini uniques are the only major holdup, and everything else, like the other thing is, if you get enough orbs, although it's random, it's only random on a day-to-day basis. Like the way I look at it is now we can use raid tickets to buy orange gear orbs. There's orange gear in the raid shop. There's orange gear in the supply shop. There's orange gear in the war store. You can buy orange orbs in the war store. We get orange gear orbs from several milestones. So even though it's random, we're actually opening like healthy quantities of these orange gear orbs. So while if you want to track like, well, over 4 days, I got none of the mystic item I wanted. That's reasonable. But if you look at like over a month, that's statistically impossible. You're going to get some of them, and
they're not shocker shards,
right? Well, long story on that. I think that the mini uniques are the only gate, and I think that orange gear availability is fine. Now, again, like I'm just picking a number out of the sky here, but let's say that Dark Dimension 3 was supposed to be entered at after 6 months. If you were late game when they introduced the concept of coming in. If they shorten that to 4 months, like I don't see that as an issue or a horrible blow to the players. Like, fine, cool, we'll get in sooner. I'm excited to see the new content. But I think that the people asking are making unreasonable demands. I think that they want to be ready to get in when it launches, which I think is absurd.
Then I'll just ask, if we're talking about Dark Dimension 3, I can't speak to that. I know I'm specifically not spending resources to plan around it when I see it, but that's a personal thing. That may be true, that may not. I can't speak to that. What I will ask is one question, and this is just a very, simple. Do you think it unreasonable for them to take orange gear raid orbs and have them emulate in form and function purple gear raid orbs, in that there is one of the corners has a chance of dropping uniques? That has been my thing for a very long time, and that is that sounds like it's so dumb easy. You could have just done this, and it's not gonna flood the market in the early stages, but the players who are just starting to hit U4 30 or 60%, who are starting to get access to these orange gear raid orbs, it's going to kind of give them like, hey, you could build your roster now. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the feel from not just the whale conversation, but from a lot of the player when they say stuff like, hey, we need more orange gear or more tier 4, or, when they say that, it's more of it feels like everyone's kind of sputtering, and you don't ever want that to happen. You want it to feel kind of fluid, where like, oh, the game got a little bit easier in one vector but another. So like, are you opposed to the idea of just making that one change and then?
If that was the total ask of the changes, it would have my support. That does not bother me at all. It's the general concept though. It's its own. Like I've talked to these people and they've just come out and said, at this rate, it will take me several months to have 5 characters at gear tier 14. This is BS. And that statement I find laughable. Because that's, in my opinion, the whole point.
I hear that. But, like, I don't want... Like, in the same way I'm not trying to discount a free-to-play player's opinion of their enjoyment of the game, if, for some reason, someone who has spent, I don't know, $400,000 in a mobile game has an issue with something, I think they're entitled to it. Whether, in the same conversation as anything else, whether it speaks for a majority of people or enough people that they're going to get behind it, I don't think that's like a mention of the, like, that's not the boycott. That's a part of the boycott.
I agree, but so just closing remarks on this, I guess, so we can get on to some of the other topics.
Yeah, right.
But so like a whale or a late game player complaining about what is good or bad for them, like at the end of the day, what's good for new and mid-game players is a lot of times, certainly not always, but a lot of times going to be bad for whales and late game players. And I wouldn't ask that the whales or late game players be in full support of things that are directly bad for them, because they're speaking from their point of view. They want to have, representation. But I think that like this orange gear, like the whole, like most people are sputtering. I think that again, the large volume of the players of this game aren't even getting any orange gear. So the idea that people don't already have 10, 15 characters at gear tier 14, I think is a big win for most of the players who are able to make faster progress and get kind of close. They're getting their gear 11s, their gear 12s, maybe they've got a couple gear tier 13s, and the whales aren't pushing too far ahead. They're pushing ahead as fast as they can right now. But FoxNext has a history of like, if you want to spend an egregious amount when it comes out, you can get ahead, or you can wait like 5-6 months and get that same progress for free at 5 times the rate.
I think that's the takeaway. I think the common ground I've heard on the whales is they're kind of tired of spending the egregious amount because
but they only do that to compete with each other.
Yeah, yes and no. It's a conditioning thing. Listen. Like, I'm not defending or saying. I'm saying I know what they believe, and they believe that this is a condition. They've been conditioned from FoxNext to be like, oh, we have to buy this to stay at this level.
Unfortunate that they have no agency. My condolences.
Conditioning is independent of agency, but we can move on. We can move on.
I spoke my piece on Orange Gear. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Sure.
On to character release cadence. I'll let you open the floor with this one.
I mean, I've seen some hero of the internet say like the characters are released frequently enough, and I'm like, dude, I wish, but please tell me what blocks you're playing with in the corner. Well, so, that looks fun.
Hold on,
they're not released.
Just to clarify, fair point. But so specifically, character farmability, availability, rather, not
correct.
Not how often new characters come out, how frequently older characters become generally farmable.
Yeah, I think my personal stance is one of, I think that every time a new character becomes available to purchase, the day you see that offer, a previous character should also be added to a farm node, or like a farm node or a store. That is my personal stance. The overall, I think no matter what you believe is required to fix the problem, I think most people will agree it is incredibly silly that we have some characters that have been 6 months plus without access. And that doesn't look like it's particularly changing, even with their commentary. Even when saying, like, we're going to release 2 characters. Well, we might release 1 character. It needs to be more. I know for a fact as a whale that I am, and like a lesser whale, like a baby whale, that I'm going to get a character to 4 or 5 star when they come out by what I do. And then I know people who are like 7. They don't care how fast the character becomes farmable, and on any side of it. It's done, and they don't care. But it's possible to have empathy and say like, hey, maybe it is a little too long. Like maybe 9 months for Colossus, 6 months for like Graviton. Maybe Namor being added to the War Store, the Raid Store, which is hilarious because he has no value in raids. Like it's one of those things where like they could have been better the whole time. I don't understand why. I believe there were 0 characters released as a farmable character in the month of December. Like, why? This isn't hard. It seems greedy. That's my stand. Like, it seems greedy.
All right, so here's my take on this. It seems greedy because it is greedy. That's pretty much my stance on it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm pretty much fully in support of, again, everything that's been said in the letter. I agree with you. A small counterpoint that's like more of a technicality thing, but I generally, for every new character that releases, the oldest non-farmable character should become farmable, like on the same day, and it should just keep pace, and just new ones should keep coming out at the rate that old ones become conveniently available. And anything less than that is the result of pure greed and is preposterous. 2 tiny counterpoints just to raise that, like, FoxNext isn't 1,000% unreasonable on this, but I'm with you. The 2 tiny points I'll raise are, 1, they said they're going to release 2 characters every month. They put in a line, so I guess I'll address the line first. They put in a line like, there could be a month where this is only 1. Firstly, they said that just purely to cover their own asses. Like, no other reason. I don't think they have plans to, like, every few months we'll just do 1. I think they literally put that in there, like, if something happens and there's a month where we only do 1, we don't want a brand new riot because we broke our promise to the players. So I think they literally just put in a line like, hey, if we accidentally screw this up, because we accidentally screw up a lot of things, which they certainly do, don't hate us. It doesn't necessarily mean we did it out of maliciousness. So that's that tiny little thing. The other thing, though, is I'm unhappy with them saying 2 per month because, on average, we get more than that. However, a lot of people...
about 3, I think.
Right. It's almost 3. Not even a full 3. It's almost 3. People confuse month with patch. Correct. And they'll be like, this last patch alone, we got 4 characters. We got 5 characters. Yeah, but that's over like 6-7 weeks. They said per month. Per month, the average... So, of the time that the game's been globally launched, I think like 15 of the like 18, 19 months, however long it's been, they've released 3 characters in a month. There have been a few months where they released 4, and there have been a few months where they only released 2. But generally it's 3. Now, some of those characters are legendary. So in a month where they release 2 new characters and a legendary, you can't... Like, the legendary being out doesn't justify making a previously unfarmable character farmable, because the legendary themselves aren't farmable. Like, they are, but in a very different way. So in that regard, it doesn't make sense to have a perfect 1-to-1, but still, again, I think we're completely on the same page, which is 6 months.
Counterpoint.
Hit me.
Do you consider, like, the AIM rework new character release? Because I do. As far as I'm concerned, that was characters that had no value to, like, anybody, and now they are relevant. And I considered it when they did the Kree, even though the Kree technically did have value because you needed them anyway. And then originally the Defenders rework. Like, you may have had them, but you definitely didn't invest in them.
Right, now you started farming them. Now you started farming them. So, that's an interesting question. I'm going to go with, I think they count as a half of a new character. Because many people did already have a bunch of their shards, even from not farming them. I had tons of aim at the time of the rework, and I know I'm not everyone, but I had tons of aim at the time of the rework, just from all the premium orbs that I've opened since I've been playing, all the raid orbs I've opened since I've been playing, just all the mega is a bad example, but you get what I'm saying, like, from the Greek raids, you just get like random aim minions and stuff, so, or at least we used to, I think, but anyway, I had a bunch of them already, so it wasn't like starting fresh farming them, and it wasn't like starting fresh gearing them. It was dedicating time and resources to them that I wouldn't have done. They got changed. Now it's a new character I want. So I'm gonna say their reworks count as half a character. But again, it doesn't make perfect sense. Like that, I think they should just give extra resource. I think reworks should come with extra resources. But if tomorrow they were like, Hydra rework, now you want to farm all 5 Hydra minions and Winter Soldier and Crossbones, if they just, well, okay, they could benefit from making 7 characters farmable tomorrow because they're behind, like, bad, and why we're having this conversation is because their character availability schedule has been terrible. But assuming that they'd been doing it right the whole time and more or less going 1 for 1, that rework wouldn't justify them jumping 7 ahead. So
no.
So I'll say like a half, but really just the answer to reworks is give a boost in resources so that people can use the newly reworked characters. And you don't even have to give a boost in resources that like fully covers everything, but give a boost in resources that's like, this will get you 70% of the new tunes powered up or the newly reworked tunes powered up. That's what I think.
Okay.
But I think we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah. And then we move on to the next one.
On to the next one. So this one is, I have it listed as 1 point, but it's actually 2 that people keep mishmashing together. There's a demand for a change to the quality time spent in the game. They feel that there's a lot of low quality time. And separately, there's a complaint about how much time is spent in the game. Just some people feel that it's too much time with having to have the phone in their hands to be competitive. So you open the last one. I will open with this one. So as far as the quality time, like no one in their right mind would argue against reducing low quality time, right? Like how could anyone sit here and be like, I'm a huge fan of low quality time, I want more low quality time? That's absurd. That said, what is and isn't low quality time for people is a matter of debate. And I already know, and I'll let you make the point, but I know that your big thing is like the rewards dictate whether it's quality time or not, which I agree with to a large degree. But at the end of the day, some things are going to feel unsatisfying, and like a perfect example is Blitz, and Blitz is like the perfect catch-22 because what Blitz is it's a grind competition. It is literally a competition to see who will do more boring, repetitive fights over and over and over than someone else, and the people that are ranking higher are the people who are willing to suck it up and do it over and over and over and over more than the people who just don't, it's just they literally cannot bring themselves to do it. They find it distasteful. However,
I'm totally not blitzing right now.
Right. So that said, though, if they changed it up and were like, now you get terrific rewards for every single blitz win, let's just say like you got 500 gold orb frags for every blitz win. Now, because the rewards would be good, all of a sudden it's like, I'm doing every blitz match every minute that I can. And now it's like, well, now everyone else is doing that and getting all that gold. So now I have to, otherwise I'm falling behind because look at all the gold that all my alliance mates have. So now you're forced to do a lot of blitzing, and the blitz fights themselves aren't more fun. Like you're getting better rewards, but as soon as you put really good rewards on something, it becomes something you have to do. Otherwise you're wasting your time when you could be getting great rewards for a smaller time investment. So I'll never say I don't want rewards better for things, but if you make rewards really good for all the things, you then have to do all the things. You can't take anything off. Like I would have to work really hard on blitzes that I already have the character at 7-star if I was getting really good rewards for each blitz win. It would force me to do it more. So I'm fine with however people feel about that, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think that they kind of misunderstand that. So we'll get into the screen time required portion of this, but I'm curious, like, what do you feel is the lowest quality time and what would you do about it?
Yeah, I feel like War it is the worst, and I feel like depending on whatever level you're at, it's 3 times a week, which is in theory fun because you get to do this game mode. But as your roster grows and as you try to, I hate using this word, but compete, you'll find that some people are capable of outspending you in either resources or in money. You'll find that it stops being about how many fights can you win and how many strategic rooms can you take and how quickly you can full clear. I don't necessarily always have that fight either at my level, but that is an issue that it's waiting for you. Whether it's affecting you now, oh, don't worry, it's waiting for you. So you might not have low quality time right now, it's coming. And War, for me, represents what potentially could be one of the most fun competitive levels of the game, taking your roster and your team versus someone else's and just going at it. And it reduces it both in generic rewards, in the economy of the store, which has gotten better. I'll give credit. The economy of that war store has gotten better, but I'm still not buying 5 character shards for war credits when I can get 10 of a gear piece for that. It just takes a lot, and I think that's a big complaint. Then there's plenty of other like random complaints from side to side regarding like I don't blitz because blitz isn't fun. And just a quick like off the top of my head solution for blitz was like just add shards of the orb the character you're blitzing for. Like this way you don't have to make the most ridiculous stretch of blitz to like put points up, but every time you do a fight you'll get an amount of orb shards for that character. It's great. It gets the people who can't top 2,000, who can't top 1 to 10, a chance of pulling a good luck drop. And it's just very rewarding for that time. Now, whether players feel like they have to do that is going to base completely on them. Do I care about a Juggernaut? No. Because I have a 7-star. Do I care about a Minerva? Kinda. She's not 7. You know? It's stuff like that I key in on my take on quality time or low quality time stuff and how to make him high quality time. Obviously, you want to make a game that people want to play. Like a lot of times in this game, you either can't do anything or can't do anything that progresses you, and that's my take on it.
Yeah, I'm surprised you went with war. So I mean I don't want to get into a whole spiral tangent about what I would do differently with war. I consider both war and blitz to be fun, right? I really enjoy both those game modes, so it's fine if we have different takes on what is fun about it. I enjoy blitz. I find blitz to be like a puzzle mode where I have to attempt these 180k punch-ups against teams, and I'm never quite positive how it's going to work out, but it's fun to estimate which teams can beat which, so I enjoy that. As for war, I really, really enjoy war fights. Like I consider my alliance a war alliance, and it's our favorite thing. I would, to minimize the low quality time though, what I don't like about war is how staggered it is. I think wars should be, instead of 24 hours, like 12 hours, and you should be able to be done within like 6 hours. And some people say, like, oh, well, that for alliances that have people in all different time zones and other countries, that messes them up. And it's like, yes, it does. And they would have to make a choice, unfortunately. It's not like I want to, like, would suggest, like, breaking up groups of friends or anything like that. But if you're trying to be competitive and have coordination, it wouldn't be an unreasonable ask to be like, let's reform around groups that are generally available around the same time. But again, for me, it's like the having every 3 3/4 hours round the clock for 24 hours, having to jump in when the fresh energy drops is, I find annoying. I think we should be able to do more of it up front and not have it be this plague throughout the day. But as far as the actual gameplay and stuff, I enjoy war. I don't consider it low.
Oh, I enjoy the mode of war. I would, like, personally, I would enjoy it a little bit less frequently for a little bit higher stakes. That's just a personal thing.
Yep. And I did agree with one thing you said, which was for Blitz, it's actually been a suggestion I've been making for a while, which is exactly what you said. And every once in a while they do it. Give random amounts of orb frags after each win for the character's orb that's featured in the Blitz, so that you have a chance at that lucky jackpot 180 drop. Like, you could play one match, get the 2,000 frag drop, open that orb, get the 180 shards. The odds of that happening are crazy small. But the fact that could happen for a few people is fun and exciting. And like, what's like, that's, that happened to 10 players who are not going to buy offers. Like, so what? Everyone else is so excited by the prospect of it. So yeah, I support that.
It's rewarding. That's the idea of rewarding.
Yes.
Like I say, less required, more rewarding. It defines required as I feel like I have to versus I get to. A good friend of mine from another game used to say, when people complain about having to mulligan in a card game called Magic the Gathering, he would say, like, you don't have to mulligan, you get to mulligan. Imagine what it'd be like if you didn't like get to throw your bad cards away and get a chance at better cards. That's it. Just less things that feel like a strain and more things that feel positive. That's kind of it.
But again, one of the reasons why war feels like a strain is because, like, the reason why your alliance is so on you to have to do it is because the rewards are good. So it feels like a strain because it's expected that people want to keep winning, and they're competing against other players who are also trying to win. So it's like we have to outwork them, we have to be more coordinated than them, we have to put in more time into our strategy and communication, all this, and it's literally the players driving the stress levels of one another because that's what a competition is. Now, again, I'm not saying like war's a perfect mode and you're crazy, definitely not, but some of the things that people are mad about the game for are the nature of how far players are willing to go to compete with one another. And I want to take that point and segue into the other half of this, which of all the things, again, there are a lot of things about this boycott that I have my full support. There is one singular statement that I could not be more opposed to. This was like the most preposterous thing I'd ever read, and I think it's incredibly tone deaf. And I'll give you the exact quote. The exact quote is, this was in response to FoxNext's dev blog. Here it is. Currently, most players estimate 2 to 3 hours of screen time is necessary per day to do everything required by the game to be a member of good standing in a competitive alliance. This is far too much. I find that statement absolutely preposterous. That is the silliest thing I've ever heard. It seems to me like they literally want to be able to maintain rank 1 on their lunch break. And I have played a lot of games. I've played MMOs. I've played a lot of other mobile games, Marvel Contest Champions, Galaxy Heroes, Star Wars Force Arena, etc. And in all of those competitive games, literally all of them, the average amount of time players are willing to push each other to have to spend each day to be competitive is like upwards of 8 hours. Like all of them, upwards of 8 hours. This game is incredibly friendly for people who want to remain competitive without a big time commitment. And I think the people who wrote this do not understand what being competitive means, because to be competitive is to say, I am willing to outwork you. They might view it as like, I am willing to outspend you. I don't know. But to me, it's, I am willing to outwork you. And if after 3 hours, we've both put in the maximum amount of work, and they put 2 to 3 hours. So if after 2.5 hours, we've both put in all we can put in, like, I think there's a lot more room for competition there. I am not saying I want Marvel Strike Force to require 8 hours. I'm saying that arguing that 2 to 3 hours is far too much is out of touch and incredibly ungrateful for what we have. Now, I do want to let you address this, of course, but I do want to raise one thing, which is that I am not completely unaware of where the people who wrote this are coming from, right? I understand that a lot of people who play this game are adults, have jobs, have kids, have families, and being able to dedicate 3 hours a day to their hobby is like the grand sum total of their free time between family and kids and job and all that stuff, you know, plus just errands and groceries and doctor's office visits and all that. Like 3 hours is a lot every day for those people. I completely understand those people feeling like it's unreasonable. I do not think they understand that they are absolutely the minority in the player base.
Fair. Hold on. I'm gonna have to address something real quick. I hear you, man. And like, obviously there are going to be people speak from their own perspective. So my take from that is we're gonna remove the word most players, and we're just gonna take it and we're gonna turn it into a happy bird and it's gonna fly away. We're just gonna say players feel like there's a 2 to 3 hour investment. And I think that fixes what your issue was with that, because it's not indicative of speaking for the MSF community in whole. It's speaking for a part of the MSF community, which has its own validity.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily like put words in other people's mouth. I don't know, honestly, how many people require 2 to 3 hours of screen time, let alone how many people think that 2 to 3 hours of screen time is too much. I don't know that. I know some people do, but I don't know that everyone does. So for me, I enjoy playing games that are rewarded, that I'm in, and I don't personally believe that 2 to 3 hours is too much over the course of the day to like tag in your phone and do something. But is it 2 to 3 hours where I have to log in and at specific times versus I'm playing the game at my leisure for an hour 2 or 3 times a day. And I think that is more of a more honest approach to that, because in war, you have to spend money to get the opening 6 attacks so that you can progress as far if you are doing that. And I don't think that's indicative of what a competitive alliance might do. I think that's indicative of what some of the more competitive or most competitive alliances do. But I do feel like occasionally a lot of people can say like, I'm in this game too long, or not being in that game, conversely, or not being in the game that long will detriment them to some way, whether it be kicked from their alliance or something like that.
Yes, and so just one quick thing I'll tag on that is you were like, well, we'll take out most players and just put some players. My issue is, like, I am aware that some players feel that way, and I think that those players' feelings are totally valid. I think that because they literally wrote this as community response, like they are purporting to represent the entire community. And so to me, this comes across as like, we the people feel that tax cuts for billion-dollar industries is in the best interest of the people. And it's like, wow, well,
I personally have always taken this community to be an amorphous conversation of the people who are unhappy with the game. And that's how I've always taken it. But I can see how like I could be wrong. They could mean like, no, we're talking for every single player, and then they're going to come and yell at me.
They're certainly pretending to be. I don't know. You know.
I believe that they speak for the people who started this idea, and this boycott didn't happen in one day. This boycott happened over 6 months, and then one day was the last day, and it wasn't the offer for gold orbs. As a matter of fact, most of the whales went out and said, like, you should just give everyone 10 gold. Like, there was, that wasn't the catalyst. The catalyst was continuing lack of growth from FoxNext. So that's my opinion.
I agree. So on this, there's an easy solution to this one. In the comments below, let us know how much you feel is appropriate to play each day to be competitive, specifically to be competitive, not to do the bare minimum. And I'll leave you with this. I'll call this the Khasino formula. In my opinion, 2.5 hours should be enough to be 85% competitive. In 2.5 hours, you should be able to get 85% of the total rewards you could bring in a day. The remaining 15% should be, the only way to get the full 15% is to play something preposterous like 8 hours. But you can incrementally work your way up that. The people who are willing to play more can get that extra 5-10% out of it if they're willing to play 5-6 hours more than other people. And I think an extra 5 or 10% a day for being willing to put in all that extra time would placate those people without, being an insurmountable advantage to the people that can't.
Sure, that's fair.
All right.
Okay.
All right, moving on. This one's an interesting one, and it is gold. So I opened the last one. I'll let you open this one. But yeah, there's a lot of people making the statement, we need more gold. And I'll just preface it with, certainly the game is designed to make you want more gold. Absolutely. But I'll let you take it from here. Go for it.
I'm in support of the idea of more gold, but I understand that more gold is not the solution to the problem. It's just the easiest solution we can see. It's the idea that everything I want to do in this game costs gold. Not only is bringing a character up cost gold, but gearing a character and starring up a character and leveling up abilities of a character, they all cost gold. In addition to that, I have to spend gold. I don't have to do anything. I get to spend gold buying ability materials. So as a result, or not only ability materials, I apologize, gear, orange gear or purple gear or blue gear, depending on what level you are. So the amount of gold we get, I don't think more gold is necessarily 100% right. Like, more gold is always right. Like, they can never give me more gold, and I'm like, no, sir, thanks, I've had enough. Like, more gold is always a good take, but I think it's a part of other issues. I think, gear, what we talked about earlier, like gear availability, I'm still on the page that, well, I think we can get gear better than just having to spend gold. And you said earlier when we were talking about it, you get about 3 pieces in the three unique pieces in the store for 213,000 gold, which is 213,000 gold that can upgrade, abilities to 6664 or 2 abilities at orange or tier 4, or put an entire stack of gear on a character. It's not that there's not enough gold, it's that its gold bottleneck is being filtered by a separate bottleneck, so you just feel it more, kind of thing. So I think more gold is a good thing always, but I don't think it's a solution. I think what I've said before regarding how you use gold and the way you get a gear specifically is what's causing the gold to feel like it's being taken.
Yeah, I think that's a large part of it. And so I also want to clarify because, obviously, like, generally, right, the opinion of the player base is, I want more gold. And yes, this may come as a surprise to people. My stance on this is, I also want more gold. I want a lot more gold. I never argue with anyone who says I want more gold, because I agree with those people. The people that I will argue with are the people who say we need more gold. I don't see a case for us needing more gold, and people will always point to, well, I never have enough for this and this and this and this, and you have to stop and ask yourself, like, okay, but who says that you should be able to do this and this and this and this? And the truth is, there's several big things about this that really bother me. The first is, most people have no idea how much gold they're actually getting. They know they want more, and the first thing I'll ask them is like, all right, so how much gold do you get? On average per day, how much gold do you think you get? And the average answer I get is, I don't know, like 500K? That's not even close. So no. A day one completely free to play launch player, like never spent a penny, not even the 99 cents for 1,000 cores, nothing. If they've been very active, has been averaging about 900,000 gold a day.
Yeah.
That's going all the way back to day one launch, where we used to get, there used to be so much less gold in the game. There was no gold from war, they've added so much to it. So these days, the average for a late game player, completely free to play, on average is about 1.2 to 1.3 million gold per day. A lot of people have challenged these numbers. I'll be happy to do a breakdown video about it, but I promise you these numbers are correct. If you don't want to believe me, don't believe me, but everything I'm about to say is predicated on these numbers being correct, which we've literally proven multiple times, so please trust me, these numbers are correct. Anyway, that's how much gold we get. Now, I also want to make sure I mention this. Because I argue with people who say we need more gold, I have never, ever, 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 ever told FoxNext not to give us more gold. They've never asked me, but if they did, I've literally never made a comment like, nah, maybe leave the gold off, don't give players the gold. I would never do that, because I also want more gold. The people who are saying we need more gold have a sense of like what they should be able to accomplish, and their concept for what they should be able to accomplish is often kind of silly. Obviously, like, everyone wants to fully max their roster and have more than enough gold for everyone and everything. And it's totally natural to want that. That's like how the game is designed. But if we actually had that, that would be a major, major issue. For example, if you ever logged in and were like, you know what, I'm good on gold. I just don't want golds. Like, it's fine. I get plenty. That would be a major issue for the game. Among other things, no one would ever buy a gold offer because you would just have enough. So I understand being like, oh, I want it for free, I don't want to pay for it. Like, of course I find that reasonable. I totally agree. If we got more gold, it would not be a problem. I would not oppose it. I don't think we're in an emergency situation. So currently we're able to make forward progress. If you wanted to get every single new character fully starred up, fully geared up, fully abilities maxed, and you took them to level 70, you have more than enough gold each month as a late game player to do that for every single new character and a couple of the pre-existing ones. Now you could argue like, oh, well, I need to average 5 of the pre-existing ones each month for me to catch up. And it's like, okay, like I get why you want that, that's fine. But the fact that we are currently in a position where you have enough to cover all the new characters, again, just to level 70, because to 75 is ridiculous, and not every character needs it right now, but just to level 70 and several old ones, I think is a non-emergency state of gold. So I would agree.
Okay. But I would also I would agree with that statement completely, and I would agree that need is a very strong word that makes a lot of assertions. I will caution you and other people, however, from saying that it's inherently incorrect to say that when a player feels like they need something, it's just independently that it's not at least framed of reference by to engage the level of enjoyment that I want. And
that's fair.
And that's like, I understand that you just came up with like, these are the numbers of how much you can put into a bunch of characters. And someone from a YouTube comment made a really good point that honestly never even crossed my head about like gold and resources. And I'm just going to bring them all together into this one point. He said, dude, why, if you guys are seriously about helping everybody, like, why wouldn't you just advocate for like raising the rewards on like U1 through U5? And I was like, I had never thought of it. It's been like 2 years since I did U5. You know, like, I'm like, I never thought of it. But wow, yeah, that, like, the reward structure, like, yeah, put more gold in those, because you're still going to want to do the hardest thing you can, because raid season points are relevant. And we're not getting into raid rewards in U7. But you're still going to want to do the hardest thing you can. But you can increase the amount of gold people are getting in the earlier stages so that the plateau doesn't feel like I'm not having enough gold. It's that this is the level. Now, I always tell players that I consider a character complete at level 60 to 65, gear tier 10, 6664, you know, with like 5 stars or so. That's when I can say, like, I'm going to use this character. That usually brings them to about 30K. And obviously I'm in a different scenario than a lot of people, but like that's my barometer for like, this character can be used in Blitz, in War, in blah, in, you know, whatever. Obviously different characters are a little different, but as like newer players or players who are medium length of time players, I feel like there was a point where they're getting more gold. I'm not saying that, but I think that giving them a little bit of a boost of gold in the early stages of the game just helps them reach the points faster. And I don't think that's particularly hurtful. So yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't think anyone needs more gold. I think everyone wants more gold. I think that there's such a thing as too much gold, which is like everyone logs in, your roster's done, and you don't care about anything anymore. And then you're bored and you go play another game. So I don't want that. But I do feel like it's not the gold itself that's the issue. It's the crunch of how the bottlenecks flow into each other. That's my take. I do agree. I don't think everyone needs more gold though.
That's fair. And I want to be clear too. I'm mainly talking to the players who are late game, because the players who are early and mid game, I fully support catch up mechanics. I want them to have more resources. I want them to catch up even faster than they do. But they're not getting the maximum amount of gold they can get because they're not doing the full extent of the stuff that pays out the best gold. And it's not their fault. Like they can't. They're still working on their roster, but that's by design. But yeah, this in my mind, this was never about early and mid game players. Like they should be given all the help they can get to catch them up. But this my final question for you on this topic. I personally don't. If they gave us an extra 100K or 200K a day, I certainly don't think that would break anything. It would be a non-issue. But so my question is, if tomorrow they started giving us an extra 200,000 gold per day, how many days do you think would go by before people realized that they were still making the same amount of progress as all of their contemporaries and started saying that they still need more gold?
I'd say probably like 2 months, to be honest. Like, to answer your question,
an
like
extra
2 months.
200K gold a day would delay the cries for needing more gold for 2 months? That's pretty optimistic.
I think 2 months. I think people would be high on the opiate of getting what they asked for long enough to be like, but it's not. It like, but for like the culture shock of being like, it didn't make too much of a difference coming in. But that might be addressing a different issue, which is the issue of why is it not? Like why is that extra amount of gold not being helpful?
Yep, and
which is an economy thing.
That's a separate thing, which is, just whatever is standard is by default not that fun compared to more. More is always better.
More is always better.
So.
Except, well, never mind. I'm not going to say.
But so you can quote me on both these things, and then we'll move on to the final topic of the debate here. You can quote me on this. I do not believe players need more gold. You can also quote me on this. My name is Khasino, and I want a lot more gold for everyone. And yes, I believe both those things. All right.
Yeah, that's fair.
On to the final topic here, communication. So I think this one.
I think it's yours.
I think it is mine. I was going to let you open this though, because you brought this up. But so I do. We agree on this one, right? FoxNext Communication sucks dicks. Their communication sucks. Almost all these issues are a result of their poor communication, and with better warning and with more engagement in their community, it would be very easy to make a better game.
There was one point in communication that a post made, and I could, if there was a comment I can upvote, like in a post, I would give Reddit gold to it. And it was, why isn't there a players council? Because your feedback from the, like what you've discussed being in the Envoy program is different than what other people have discussed being with the Envoy program is like, both offline and online with me and with other people. So when I hear something, I feel like, okay, I've been involved in a lot of games, and there was no offense to Cerebro, no offense to Zeeks, you're not really community managers. And I don't mean that disparagingly. You work for FoxNext. You tend to find some level of employed community managers and managers from the community, and I think it's important to make sure that there is an equal say. I give credit where credit's due, and I'm sure Zeeks and Cerebro are bringing the feedback in a nice and polished method to the people who told them to do this, But as of right now, I think most of the people feel that they take that, like the people in FoxNext will take that, and they're like, oh, this is nice, we'll just put it on the fridge and we'll not read it.
Right.
And I think there needs to be more. I think even if maybe it's the responsibility of Cerebro to do that then and say, hey, look, we put together an internal community of players that represent whales and the average player and everything. And that's what the Envoy program should do, even though for some reason it's not really doing that. I don't know why or care why. But that's just something that I think brings the entire game to a better state. I like to make fun of FoxNext, but ultimately, I do want them to succeed because I don't want this game to go away. So I just want to find a world where people feel overall happy with the game, and months have been passing and less people are feeling happy with the game, kind of.
Yep. So again, super tiny counterpoint. So I agree with a player council. I agree that they don't listen to player voices enough. But I will say this. They do watch the numbers a lot. So when they make decisions where players start dropping off or sales start going down or time spent logged in for everyone starts going down, they immediately start looking at oh, what can we do to fix this? This is not what we're going for. And I also have the concern, kind of based on this boycott letter, we both kind of know if there were a player council, it would mostly be, that should be free. There should be no RNG in that. I don't want to buy anything. It should all be given to me for free. I want all of that to be obtainable within a month. Things like that. And that is how players feel. And as you've put here, their feelings are valid. I don't know if I fully trust, based on what I've seen in the Envoy program, with some of the statements from some of the envoys, I don't know how much I trust them to completely shape the game. Because Because sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that what they want is what's actually going to bring them the most happiness, which is surprisingly, not always the case. But yeah, ultimately, I think a player council would do good. I also just want to commend. You're correct in saying like Cerebro and Zeeks are employed by FoxNext, so they see things through the FoxNext lens, and they will never go on Reddit and be like, "Yeah, FoxNext are greedy douches."
That's my job.
Yeah, that's our job. But I do want to shout out Cerebro and Zeeks. I see a lot of them behind the scenes. I'm not saying this to be an ass kisser because I don't want to name this person, but there is at least one FoxNext employee who I think is awful at their job, does more harm than good, should be let go. I'm not going to call them out. It's whatever. But there's at least one person who is a direct inhibitor of progress and fun. But Cerebro and Zeeks absolutely fight for the player base. You don't see it because they obviously don't do it on Reddit. They're not going on strike or whatever. But I talked to both of them enough to tell you they take everything the community says seriously. They go into meeting after meeting. They present those points and they fight for the players. I think more than any two people at FoxNext, Cerebro and Zeeks are the best allies that the player base actually has. They don't see it on Reddit, but it happens in closed boardroom meetings. But so, again, a perfect example is Red Stars. If Cerebro and Zeeks both passionately hated Red Stars and one of them changed more than anything, they would never go on Reddit and say, "Hey, just so you guys know, we passionately hate Red Stars and want them changed more than anything." Because they'd get fired. They can't actually help you if they're fired. So
correct, but you remove that by placing a person from the community at and that again, like I said, that's in theory that's what an envoy's job is to do, by placing a very vocal proponent for the community, because then when you have that level of connection, it's Cerebro is never going to come back and say they said no. But someone else involved could be like, listen, they said no. They gave reasons why. You need someone level-headed. Like you had said, a community of people or a council of people would be like, we want more stuff and free stuff and less RNG and this. But like, let's be clear, that's the literal polar opposite of what FoxNext is, which is, well, according to these numbers and calculations, and it's a cold, emotionless calculation, and that's why they're caught so flat-footed from a boycott. Like that's why they had no idea what to do, and that's why they're like, what? Yeah. How is this happening? Because they were reading numbers and not listening to people. So maybe they need to listen to Cerebro more. Maybe they need to listen to Zeeks more. Maybe when they reach out to people, it's their responsibility to be like, hey, according to our numbers, y'all love Red Star Orbs, so what's all the hate for? Well, we're buying Red Star Orbs because it's the only mean of progress. We'll still buy Red Star Orbs if it's progress, but if it was more rewarding progress, maybe more people would buy them. Oh, we can't see that in a spreadsheet because it doesn't fucking exist. That's my takeaway. I feel like they're too cold and calculated to understand that not everything is numbers, and that's coming from me, the spreadsheet guy.
So actually I completely agree with you. As much as I'm the same way, as much as I like to look at the numbers and be like, what do the numbers say? They don't tell the whole story. And one thing that a spreadsheet will never be able to quantify is how many more players could you have if your players were having such a blast that they were excitedly sharing it with all their friends. Games where I've just loved every second of it, I'm always trying to get all my friends to join me. I'm like, this is so fun. I love doing this every day. You gotta come be a part of it. Yeah. I know you don't even play this game, but listen to this crazy story. It's so awesome. You have to check it out. And that word of mouth and that putting the positivity out there and that people wanting to subject their friends to the fun experience doesn't show on the spreadsheet when people are frustrated. Like in the past, I've had people ask me like, hey, I know you're always playing that game. Should I play that game? And rather than be like, this is easily the most fun game I've ever played, definitely come play with me. A lot of times I'm like, well, if you're prepared to deal with this, and this, and you can get past those things, you'll have fun, you should come play with me. And
it's my opinion that there's a world where this game is exciting. Like I'm excited to tell people that I'm a content creator for this game, but some of the people in my real life don't even know. To be fair, which is fine. Most of the community doesn't know who I am, so that's fine too. But
Right.
like I don't self-promote, and like I don't even self-promote among my friends. Like I just go like I can't, because what if you start playing this game? Well, then you're gonna blame me.
Right.
And I don't want to be blamed for this. Like, I enjoy this game at my leisure, and I've had to change my definitions of what it means to spend, what it means to enjoy, what it means to compete multiple times to find that. And I feel like a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. I think that in my, like, just to do a sign off note then, and before I say it, like, I think my take from Fix MSF and why I'm involved with it and why I'm so passionate about it is not that I want FoxNext to go out of business, and not that I want this game to die, and not that it's my money and I want it now. You know, like, it's because I think a better version of this game exists. Better. Yeah. And I would even go so far as I think a good version of this game exists from where it's come, because I started playing this game when it was a great game, and I continued playing this game when it started falling. And for my money and for my time, I enjoy it, and I think that they're not far away from a sustainable, positive, overall community, because no community is always completely positive. And I think they just haven't been listening. And all of the texts we've ever heard saying, "We're listening. Here's challenge tiers for the whales." These challenge tiers are for the whales.
Yes, they are.
The new ones, they're completely for the whales. So I could sit there and go, like, even if I can or can't do it, doesn't affect the community. This does nothing.
No, and just a quick note. I found the Red Star, the Elite Four amount that they tossed in the new challenges, more of an insult than a kind gesture. Yeah. So I'll put that.
Sorry.
No. But
also, last note on that: the Cyclops in the final challenge of the ability mats is the pre-nerf Cyclops that has Disrupt on basic.
I want
just
that
letting
Cyclops.
you guys know that now. That's the Cyclops that we would have bought.
That's the Cyclops that all the boycotters are gonna get.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So one in closing, my sincere message is, when I started making content, it was not about like, how do I make the most money making content? It was, how do I make the best content? And hopefully, if enough people like it, one day I will have money for it. But what's the best content? All the games that I've enjoyed started off with, how do we make the best game? Not how do we make the most money, how do we make the best game? And if the game is super fun and everyone loves it, it'll make us money. One of my favorite games of all time, League of Legends, completely free to play. No one ever has to spend a single penny on that game. Worldwide phenomenon. I think FoxNext could learn from that. I understand mobile games have to make money, but if you focus on the fun, the money will come, because people are willing, happy, and excited to spend money on their hobbies, and they feel better about it. So, in closing, go for the fun, and the money will follow, at least in my experience. Otherwise, though, I think we've covered everything. I know you have a dinner, I think, to get to, so I will let you go. Thank you for sitting down for me and having this whole debate. Sorry you just got wrecked in this debate, Tony.
Oh, I'm sorry. Scoreboard, baby.
No, I'm saying...
It's all Tony. It is your video, so you can make that scoreboard say what you want.
I'm going to make this thumbnail. Khasino destroys Boycott leader in debate. It's going to be... I'm just kidding. No,
it's like 5 lies in there. And
Yeah, it is. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you for sitting down and talking to me. You want to let people know where they can find you?
No.
All right. Don't look for Tony. He's going into hiding after this. No, I'm just kidding. Go find him.
Twitch.tv/Tony Scungili, YouTube.com/Tony Scungili.
Links will be in the video description. Tony's one of my favorite content creators, and for good reason. He makes a lot of sense. Go check him out. He's fun, and maybe you'll get to see him turn his hat around. And I'll leave it at that. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I will see you guys real soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If anyone else representing the boycott wants to come on and have a chat about it, my door is always open. Just PM me on Discord. We'll make it happen. Otherwise, yeah, thank you guys. I will see you guys real soon. Until then, peace!